Hello students, this is your course on content marketing. In this video on developing relevant content, we are going to talk about structure of a great content, especially from an editorial point of view. Now, what makes content great? First of all, from a content marketing perspective, the agenda behind creating any kind of content and then publishing and promoting it is to engage your target customers, drive traffic to your website, to your social platforms, and of course, achieve leads as well as conversions. So, every single piece of content that you're publishing is working towards building your brand image and achieving your content marketing goals. So, just about anything or something which is below your expected standards, below your expected quality level, cannot be published. Having said that, there are some subjective and qualitative assessments which must be done from an editorial point of view for every content format which is generated before it is published and before it is promoted. Now, good or actually a great content to begin with solves a problem, question through comprehensive, accurate, exceptional information and resources. And sometimes the problem could be as frivolous as search for entertainment, search for some fun. But a good content definitely has a purpose. A great content definitely solves that purpose. And that is like an acid test, which every single piece of content that you are generating should pass. Nothing which is meaningless should be published from a content marketing perspective. A great content is also different in scope and detail from other work on similar topics, which means that you cannot just aggregate content from all sorts of sources and just republish it without offering any new value to your customers, because your customers are savvy. They understand when you are giving them value, when you're giving them crap. So you have to be careful that new scope should be explored and new detail, new effort, new value should be added to your content as well. And that is again a subjective assessment which you need to make for every piece of content that your content marketing team is publishing. Then it loads quickly and has great UI across any device and browser. This is where your design, which is supporting your content, gets assessed. You have to ensure that your content is loading quickly on all sorts of devices, and it has a pleasing UI and UX, and it is supported by all browsers, and therefore a customer's experience with your content is ensured to be positive and not frustrating at all. Great content also creates an emotional response. It could be awe inspiring, it could be surprising, it could give customers a feeling of joy. It could maybe lead to some kind of anticipation, especially when it is an announcement or when it is a teaser of some kind. It could also lead to admiration if you are sharing a lot of knowledge, information, value. The customers may land up admiring your brand for giving that kind of value to them. And that is what you should be judging your content for. Is it doing that particular task? Is it generating any emotional response in the reader or in the user or not? And great content also delivers great user experience with the use of fonts, visuals, patterns, structure. So in the whole, the way your content looks and what exactly does it deliver, it both the things matter for the overall user experience. And that's why we covered how design supports content in the previous video, and that is something that you have to ensure that is covered before you publish any content. Then great content also provides content that is a combination of high quality, trustworthy, useful, and interesting pieces of information and sources, which means that there is very less scope for opinions unless you're creating thought leadership or opinion posts, because what customers seek is validated or verifiable facts provided to them in the form of stories, perhaps in the form of the contextual topic that is being discussed. But what they want is to trust the content provider. What they want is useful information which is relevant to them, and therefore the assessment of every content on the usefulness and relevance is highly important before it is published. These guidelines, these attributes of a great content, then can help you determine the structure of a good content that is to be published. So when we're talking about written content, because that is the majority of the content formats which you are producing, they're going to be written, except for the videos, podcasts, and webinars. Almost everything that you are publishing is a written content. So that is where you need to focus on the structure, and some of the learnings can actually be taken to the video and audio content as well. So it should have a clear and relevant headline, basically setting the context right, giving the customer the right information on what the content is all about. It should have main content categorized under subheadings. Glimpse of this we saw in the previous video when we were talking about design supporting the content also. It should be rich with relevant keywords to increase searchability of the content, because let's face it, you're again producing content because you want to engage your customers, and you won't be able to do that if they're not even able to find your content. So insertion of relevant keywords, making your content searchable, rankable, and accessible is also important, and therefore should be paid attention to when designing, structuring your content. It's advisable to keep keywords in mind during the content development process, but if the content structure is being reviewed at the editing phase, then assessment as well as insertion of keywords can be done at this stage also. And it's not necessary to just have keywords in the main content. They could be part of the headline, they could be part of the tags, which are part of the content. Then supporting images, graphs, animations are also a indispensable part of the structure of a great content, because they form some kind of anchor and some kind of high retention aspects of the content, which can make your customers remember what you talked about and what your message was. The example that you see here is of different types of blog posts, event announcements, online resources which are available on a platform, and each of them have a relevant image attached to it. And by the image itself, you can get drawn in to that particular content and would want to check out what exactly it is about in detail. The same goes for images, graphs, and animations being included inside the content to support the message being delivered. Then sources and links, which could be from where you have curated the content, should also be part of your content structure. And if it is 100% original content, then maybe that is not required. But if you want to further deliver value to your customers, you want them to explore more such resources that your company itself has offered, then including those sources through internal links or external links is important and should be considered as a must do point for checking the structure of your content. Metadata and tags is the next important attribute or aspect of the structure of great content. And although this is a backend thing and usually checked uh, by the designer or the developer before the final publishable version is ready, this also contributes heavily to the structure of great content, because let's face it, a lot of your content is going on digital platforms, and there it is going to be searchable if you have clear meta headings, meta descriptions, which is information about what is your content all about. Then tags for your images, for your graphs, and any kind of media files that you have, and of course hashtags for improved searchability, rankability, and um, scope of shareability are very essential, very important when you're generating content for marketing purpose. Lastly, having featured snippet as part of your content is also a great way to enhance its structure, because this is something which you can readily upload on various platforms where you're promoting your content, and instantly generate enthusiasm or excitement about your content in the target audience. For example, in the above image, you see the blog post on Salem witch trials began on a leap, uh, etc., etc. The heading itself is not completely readable, but the featured snippet, a single line where it tells that Marty recommends fiction and non-fiction titles about the Salem witch trials, is a featured snippet that gives you a clear indication what this content has to offer. And anyone interested in this kind of topic is going to therefore definitely enter into it and immerse into it. Similarly, at the bottom, what you see is examples of good content with the right tags identified, like health recipes and health yoga, which allows for categorization and clubbing of content which is of high relevance to users, making your content easier to be located and easier to be consumed by your target audience. So, the structure of great content essentially is something that makes your users' content consumption experience good, positive, and highly enjoyable and value adding. And that is something that you have to keep in mind before publishing your any kind of content format for marketing purposes. So that's about structure of great content. Next up, we'll talk about content curation and how that can support your content generation uh, uh, activities and goals. Until then, thank you.